Ayy, look, I'm in the lab like Dexter, brand new batch he tested. I'm with all the extras, don't try and bitch, I'm pressure. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers.
But aside from this game, let's go ahead and move on to the NFC Championship game where we had the San Francisco 49ers go up against the Detroit Lions. And this game was an interesting game. You know, we saw that the San Francisco 49ers go down 24-7 at halftime, and something was said in that locker room, and a switch just flipped.
No, Roger Goodell made the call. Roger Goodell made the call. That's what happened in the locker room. No flip was switch. Goodell said, "Hey, come on now, like, we don't need the Lions in the Super Bowl. We can't have Detroit Boston in the Super Bowl." Like, he made the call.
He must have been one hell of a phone call because that woke up the 49ers, and they were able to shut out this Lions team for the most part, and they were able to come out victorious 34-31. So let's go ahead and get some initial thoughts on this game.
I mean, just a ridiculous collapse, really. I mean, you come out the game like just firing on the 49ers. I mean, you're just absolutely getting whatever you want. You're running all over. David Montgomery's had a huge game, like 113 total yards for him. They're rushing on the ground. Jahmyr Gibbs is making plays. Amon-Ra's making plays. I mean, you're just coming out. You get an interception at one point. I mean, this team looked like, we're not here to play games. Like, we're here to really do what we want, right? And you're up big at one point. The score is like, what, 24-7? I'm thinking, okay, well, they have an opportunity to get a killer shot. And things just change. Something just happened where a missed fourth down conversion, right? Then you get that huge IU conversion. Which I don't know how it was possible. They get that Brandon IU, they get a break with that. They score a touchdown. Then it's like, okay, you're still up just a bit. Let's run the ball a little bit more. Get to your actions. You get a fumble. Like, literally everything that could go wrong starts to happen, right? You get a fumble. Okay, cool. They get a touchdown next possession. You're still up just a little bit. Then they score again. And at that point, it's like, well, they score 27 unanswered points. I mean, there's no other way to write a collapse like that. And I know, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people are going to say, well, why did Dan Campbell go for it multiple times on fourth down? I mean, was it really as bad as people are thinking? I mean, they got here through aggressive play calling. They had that chance with Josh Reynolds. Josh Reynolds had a terrible game, man. He dropped a lot of passes. And then you had another attempted one where Jared Goff missed James Williams on the drag. I mean, it just missed opportunities. The 49ers just kept doing whatever they wanted. And it's just like, if I'm a Lions fan, I know a lot of people say, well, it's a moral victory. You can say nobody expected the Lions to be here, but if I'm a Lions fan, I'm not going to sleep, man. I'm getting zero shut eye after that, because it's one thing if you just lose straight up, but to be up that big, the Super Bowl within a reach, and you just collapse like that, nah, man. I can't. I wouldn't be able to fathom that as a Lions fan. And for the 49ers, man, they still sit here and really say the Niners have played a full, clean game of football, like from start to finish, where we've been convinced this Niners team, this is who they are. From quarter one to quarter four, have they had a full game yet? The Packers game, obviously, it wasn't that way. This Niners game, this Lions game was after halftime. So, maybe that's something that to think about when we're going into our predictions about, the Chiefs and this matchup against the 49ers is, can we trust the 49ers to play a complete game from start to finish?
Bullshit. I swear everything goes their way. I promise. Like, this is the year that everything's gonna go their way. Last year, having 4 quarterbacks injured, all the bullshit going through. The Eagles losing, Christian McCaffrey as the quarterback. This year's the opposite. Everything that cannot go wrong is not going wrong for them. Start off with the IU. I can't even know. They 29. You got to get that pick. It hit off his hands and it hit off his helmet. It bounces right back to IU. And then the next drive, first play or second play, they get a fumble, and just Reynolds 2 drops, and J-Mo dropping that touchdown in the end zone, and Goff not missing a couple of his receivers. Like I'd said, J-Mo on the drag. I think he missed Laporta on the post route going to the right side. He kind of overthrew it on the third down. He missed him there. I just felt like everything that could go wrong for the Lions in the second half went wrong, and everything that can go right for the Niners went right in the second half. They got that lucky catch for Ayuk. It gave him a break, 51 yards, immediate touchdown, and then fumble Gibbs. He gave up the rock. They marched down the field, McCaffrey touchdown. Then after that, it's set in stone. You lose momentum. You go for another fourth down, hits off Reynolds' chest, Butterfingers, he drops it, and then after that, it's just over. So to me, I feel like this Niners team is very capable of getting punched in the mouth very early. Last two games, both teams started off hot on them. They punched them in the mouth very quick. They made comebacks in the second half. Some adjustments been made, but like I'd be setting our predictions. So like this is Mahomes you're going up against. It's the Chiefs team. Chiefs, a different type of offense, different type of caliber team. But to me, Lions came out hot first half, and second half their offense was just zero. They couldn't get any. They didn't score anything till last minute of the game where Jim had that touchdown. But other than that, there was nothing going on for them second half. Gibbs, fumbled. They didn't really put him back in the game. Montgomery had an okay run game. St. Brown was actually nowhere to be found in the second half. And then you have Reynolds, those two crucial drops. I mean, the first one, you're up 24-10. I feel like Dan Campbell, the first one, you could go for a 3 essential in that. Make it 27-10, give you a little more cushion. But gambling man he is, he's been doing it all year long. He went for it, and Reynolds sold him on that catch. And then I think, what was it? The second one was 24-17 or 24-21? 24, was it tied the second one?
I think 24-21.
24-21. I feel like essentially you could go for a slow their momentum down, let them start off on the kickoff at the 25. But again, Goff trusted Reynolds, and there you go. Butterfingers. I don't think you should go back to Detroit, man. There's a lot of people waiting to feed their families on you, and you failed them. I feel like Abdi said he's correct. If I'm Detroit, I'm not going to be like, hey, we made it this far, better season than last year. I feel like the Super Bowl's right in our hands. We're just a couple plays away, and stuff happened. But Niners, fuck y'all.
I mean, to sum up this game, I think for me it was pretty simple. It was just it was a tale of two halves. Everything that could possibly go right for this Detroit Lions team went right in that first half, and they stuck with their identity, and that's something that I'm going to be talking about a little more in this game. It's just them, sticking with their run game. That's how they started off the game, getting big runs from David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. And which, if you're able to get the run going, you're going to be able to get the pass game going too. And for this Detroit Lions team, we know how high-powered of an offense they have, and we know they're capable of putting up points like this. So I don't think them putting up this many points surprised any of us. But for them to do it in one half was the surprising thing for all of us. And so I was definitely surprised with how they were able to just simply march down the field in this Niners team, converting third down after third down, and extending drives, and really wearing out this Niners defense, because this isn't really something I expected coming into this game. But they were able to do it, and so I give all the credit in the world to them. But in that second half, they just collapsed. It's just pretty simple. I believe that this Niners team, they were capable to beat this team comfortably, but that just wasn't the case. But in the second half, they did. They controlled the game. They were able to lock in defensively. The adjustments that they made for, Steve Wilkes, he made amazing adjustments in this game, and he really just confused Jared Goff. And that's the one thing that I talked about in our last episode, for the preview, was, they weren't familiar with this Lions team as a whole, but a quarterback they're familiar with is Jared Goff. They have some history with him. And so, this defense was able to rattle him a little bit, missed throw here and there, some key crucial drops on fourth down. And, momentum is a real thing in sports. If at one point you could be at the highest of highs, and, in the blink of an eye, you could be at the lowest of lows, and you can be like, what the hell happened? And that's exactly what the Lions were thinking coming out of this game. So, all the credit in the world to the Niners, all the credit to Brock Purdy. A lot of the haters, a lot of the critics that had something to say about him all throughout this regular season, and even up until this point now, I truly think they don't have anything to say anymore, because the conversation surrounding Brock Purdy was, how good is he when they're trailing, when things aren't going well for this Niners team. How is Brock Purdy able to come out, and figure things out on his own and lead his team. And we saw it last week a little bit in Green Bay, where he had to march down the field and get a game-winning drive going. And we saw it for an entire half in this NFC Championship game this year.
Man, I feel like it's teams giving it away,
51-yard
man.
pass was him, right? That nice little 51-yard pass he tossed to
Man,
Ayuk.
I'm just saying, I feel like it's teams giving it away, bro. Simple as that. Like, teams have not been able to get the kill shot against the 49ers.
Yeah.
And it ain't because of Brock Purdy.
They're playing it up for them. They're playing it up for them.
That's why it's different. That's why it's different if you play a guy like Patrick Mahomes, man. That's all I'm gonna say. Is you better not let him get a kill shot. You know, Jordan Love had his chance. He didn't go for the kill shot. Jared Goff and the Lions, same thing. Now you're going up against Patrick Mahomes. Don't let him get a kill shot.
I just have one question.
Yes.
Did Brock Purdy prove to you that he can come back and play from behind and win? Simple as that.
He did, but I don't think in a playoff game, like I feel like that's 2 games in a row where the Niners potentially should have been out in the playoffs against the Packers, right? We missed our opportunities. The Lions, crazy historical collapse, 27-0 up until they scored that touchdown late in the game, which didn't even matter. And then now you're going up against Patrick Mahomes. I'm just saying is don't think, okay, if we trail, Brock Purdy got me, because this is Patrick Mahomes, buddy.
But Brock Purdy, these last couple of games, playing from behind, he's shown you that when the chips are down and he's down for the count, he's not really down for the count. He's able to, come alive and string along some drives and nice passes, and he can get your team in a winning position. And he's capitalized on on both these opportunities in back-to-back weeks now. Now he's in the Super Bowl. I just feel like we're moving the goalpost a little bit now.
You're down 24-7. You're down 24-7.
That's a lot of points.
You have that huge Brandon Ayuk lucky ass conversion that happens. Then you have the Josh Reynolds dropping 2 crucial fourth down.
Even that next drive when they got the ball back from the fumble, essentially it was a pass behind the line of scrimmage to Debo that took him all the way to the end zone, basically, and the CMC finished it.
You have the Jahmyr Gibbs
back touchdowns right there. Essentially made it 20.
You have the Jahmyr Gibbs fumble. I'm saying you got to count up these possessions. Like going back to the Green Bay game,
he did have some good runs though. I give him that to get out.
Yeah, he was picking up yardage with his legs. I'll give him that. But you go back to the Green Bay game, you had the 2 missed interceptions, potentially 3 if Keyshawn Nixon times his jump. You have 3 potential interceptions there. You have the respotting of the ball twice. You have the misintentional grounding call. Then you go back to this game. You have the Brandon Ayuk lucky-ass conversion. You have the Jahmyr Gibbs fumble. You have the Josh Reynolds fourth. Like I'm just saying, is these stuff add up, because you go up into a Super Bowl game, you cannot allow mistakes like that to happen, because if a Jordan Love quarterback isn't going to punish you, damn well Patrick Mahomes is going to punish you.
Facts.
I'm just not sure if that's fair.
Why is it not fair?
Purdy. Because I don't understand why we're holding.
Can you comfortably say Brock Purdy has played a complete good game in the playoffs so far?
No, absolutely not. But when it's mattered most, he stepped up and he's gotten his team a W in both those games. The reason why they're in the Super Bowl is because of him. The defense made their adjustments.
I feel like he's the one that has because of CMC, though. I feel like they made it so far Super Bowl because of CMC, man. That's their best player.
Great. CMC's been great, and I'm not taking that away from CMC. But when Brock Purdy needs to be great, he's been great. I just don't understand why we hold Brock Purdy to this number 1 overall pick standard. We have to remind ourselves sometimes that this guy was the last pick in the draft 2 years ago. He's the last pick in the draft as a starting quarterback should not be, in the Super Bowl today. A team with the last overall,
if you're trying to put Purdy in those quarterback rooms, we're gonna hold him to that number 1 standard. If you're trying to put him with the elite of the league, you try to throw his name top 10, and he deserves this. And when it was week 7, he's MVP, he's top 5 in MVP, this and that. We got to put him in those. We have to put him in those conversations. We have to question him. We have to rank him like that. We're not gonna just because he does good for 3-4 minutes of the game, or he had a couple good possessions, a couple drives to bring him back in late in the game. Good, but it really wasn't him though. It's a lot of goes on CMC, a lot with Debo. You gotta pay attention to these other figures on the team. It's not just solely him. I
honestly think I don't think we're watching the same game. We're a 17-point comeback. Like
17 comeback. No, 17. Let's break it down. Ayuk 51-yard pass. Yes or no? That was him.
It's a pass interference if he doesn't catch that. There was a flag on the play. They picked up the flag, but it was because it was obviously a catch. But I honestly think that was a pass interference.
Nah, I don't think so. That was a lucky ass conversion. That was a lucky.
There's a little bit of luck that went his way, and that's sometimes you need that little bit of luck. And
he had luck in that first game where he should have been picked off 3 times. Like at some point, his luck is gonna have to. He can't cash it out no more. At some point, Brock Purdy's not gonna be able to cash out his luck. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's a discussion for another day. You know, when we talk about the Kansas City Chiefs and the 49ers, we could possibly bring that conversation back up again. But strictly right now, I think Brock Purdy has done a phenomenal job at least silencing his critics leading up to this Super Bowl matchup. You know, because like I said, the conversation surrounding Brock Purdy throughout this season was, you know, whether or not he was capable to bring this team back when they were down. You know, when the Niners are behind, is Brock Purdy capable enough, you know, to lead them to victory? You know, to string along drives, finish them out with touchdowns, and come out with a W in those matchups. You know, we saw him struggle a little bit doing that this year. You know, when they went on their 3-game skid, we saw him struggle heavily against that Baltimore Ravens team. And now we get to the postseason, and in back-to-back games, when you need Brock Purdy to step up and string along drives and put points on the board and to give, you know, the Niners a victory, he's been able to do that back-to-back weeks. And so I think Brock Purdy deserves a whole lot of credit for what he's done so far in this postseason. And I think it's pretty good for the Niners as a whole to be going through situations like this, you know, situations like these, because you want to be able to, you know, be prepared for what's to come in the Super Bowl. You never know what to expect. If you're just on cruise control going to the Super Bowl, then you're not really ready for what's to come. You really don't know what to expect. And on the other side, you have a guy who's on his way to being one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play our game in Patrick Mahomes. And you want to be the most prepared as you can possibly be when you're playing against a guy like that and the head coach and Andy Reid. And so I feel like, you know, these last couple of games have prepared the Niners, you know, in ways that they didn't think were possible. And, you know, obviously, you know, a lot of things had to go their way in that second half, you know, for the Niners, where I know the conversation coming out of this game, you know, was Dan Campbell's decision for going for it on 4th down multiple times. But, you know, for me, my stance on that is pretty simple. You know, that's their identity, that they've stuck with that this entire year and this entire season. They're like we mentioned, they've been an aggressive team all year, and that's totally fine. I honestly have a problem with Dan Campbell not going for it on 4th down towards the end of the first half, where they instead they just kicked the field goal, because that would have been the kill shot. Nothing that they could have done in that second half was going to be a kill shot. But they could have went for the kill in that towards the end of that first half, where they got down there in the red zone. They've been pretty much beating up on this Niners defense for the entirety of the first half. But then now all of a sudden, when you get down there and you have the opportunity to put the nail in the coffin and, you know, pretty much give the Niners a haymaker shot, you settle for a field goal. That was a decision that I wasn't necessarily, you know, happy with or comfortable with. That's where you have to be aggressive. And I don't, like I said, I still don't have any issues with what, you know, for him going for it on 4th down and leaving points out there on the board, because Dan Campbell's been pulling up to each and every fight with a gun in each hand, going to war with absolutely everybody and anybody. And now all of a sudden, people want him to come to these gunfights with a pocket knife, and they want him to work with that and for him to put the guns down and pick up the knives. And I'm not a fan of that whatsoever. But, you know, overall, it's just the way the game of football is played, man. You know, I think Dan Campbell, he understood that this was a great opportunity for them, you know, to get to the Super Bowl. You know, he said it to his team, he said it to the presser, that, you know, they may not ever get an opportunity like this again, which leads me to my next question, which is, you know, can the Lions make the NFC Championship game again?
I mean, I think they can, because really, like, I mean, the AFC keeps getting better, but I mean, how much better is the NFC really gonna get next season? I mean, no, I hate mentioning them because they're always going to be mentioned, but the Cowboys are going to be there. You know, the Eagles, ideally, they're going to be back as well. You know, you have some improving teams in the Packers. The Vikings are going to be back and healthy, but I mean, you have Seattle sitting there, and then of course at the top you have the 49ers. But I mean, I feel like they have a chance. I mean, the NFC is not riddled with elite quarterbacks. It's not like the AFC, which is just, you know, we mentioned it's hell with the amount of quarterbacks that they got on that side. So I mean, they definitely have a shot. I feel like at this point they're going to prioritize defense, and I'm gonna say this: this is where the Jameer Gibbs pick bit them in the ass. I'm gonna keep it a stack. This is where the pick bit them in the ass. I don't care what anyone says. All year long, Lions fans were saying, "Well, we don't care about positional value. We got a running back at 12. He's so good, right?" I'm just saying this: Christian Gonzalez is making a difference in that second half. You see how they got picked apart by Brock Purdy? A cornerback makes a difference for them because their secondary got shredded, absolutely shredded, and it's been a problem all year long for them. Their cornerbacks terrible, just downright terrible. Their safety's cool, and the guy that got worst of all is C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I mean, everybody's running their victory laps on that guy, but like their cornerbacks absolutely terrible, man. Like that has to be a priority for the Lions because they got to give up 27-0 in that second half till you score a touchdown. I mean, it's just embarrassing, man. That secondary just terrible, terrible.
I don't know about that.
I'm just saying there's still.
I'm not a fan of that one. I'm
If
not
you
gonna lie.
take out, I'm saying is if you take out Jameer Gibbs from the equation, you have what's his name, Christian Gonzalez there. I still think
a
nothing
different
should.
dynamic to that offense.
I don't think. I mean, Montgomery's damn good, man.
Man,
Montgomery
is a guy that averaged 2.8 yards a carry.
Hell no, Montgomery is a steady runner. He's a steady runner.
I don't need that, but I need
He's
a
a
different
steady runner.
dynamic. But both with the 1-2 punch they have, it's a different dynamic that opens up the offense a lot more.
I don't know, man.
It gives them a lot more looks.
The way they got shredded, their secondary got shredded, man.
Nah.
Having a cornerback one makes the difference, man. That's the difference. You're not getting torn apart with a cornerback one. That's all I'm gonna say.
I just feel like I feel like Purdy made a lot of moves on his legs. I don't necessarily feel like it was a lot on the DBs. Other than 29 got to catch that interception. He a bum. 29 got to catch that pick.
Gonzalez is catching that. I'll tell you that, right?
Bum, bro.
Gonzalez is catching that.
So mad. But I feel like a lot of the
was
plays.
it Malcolm Rodriguez? I think.
I don't know what his name was.
Probably. I think it was Malcolm
making
Rodriguez.
A lot of plays on his feet, man. Scrambling out the pocket, picking up first downs, making. I don't know. I just felt like, just as a whole, the Lions team just lost that momentum, and mentally they weren't there. I don't think it was just off the talent wise. I feel like just after that, the first 2 touchdowns immediately, I just felt like they checked out the game. When it was 24-21, I felt like they were just checked out right there. I felt like they didn't know what's happening. They can't stop the momentum. Dan Campbell's kind of lost, confused. The offense is not really moving. Ben Johnson's not really calling the right plays. Jared Goff is Jared Goff. I just felt like mentally they weren't there after that, when it was 24-21. But I feel like Gibbs, man. I feel that was the right pick.
Yeah, I'm not too sure if I'm on board with that, but I do understand the argument. Obviously you want a cornerback one, a DB one to be able to contain this Niners weapons group. Deebo Samuel, another solid game. It's 8 catches for 89 yards. Brandon Ayuk, outside of that big play that he made, there really wasn't another explosive play for him. But Brock Purdy was able to do what he wanted to do against this passing defense, and that's been an issue for them all year. I think teams are the blueprint to beating the Lions was pretty clear from day one, was just target the middle of the field because they don't defend that part of the field well at all. And so maybe they make some adjustments in free agency. They got a lot to think about. They could possibly bring in a lot of guys to change that side of the ball, to be impactful on that side of the ball. And, to answer the question on whether or not I see them making it back here to the NFC Championship game again, I honestly don't know. I don't think so. I honestly don't think they'll come back to this point again because, this run that they've been on, this one that they were on, felt a little bit like a Cinderella run. It's something you pull out of a March Madness run from any year where a team that flew under the radar, a team that surprised everybody throughout the season, and once they kind of get to that big moment, they just kind of collapse and they just kind of fold, and that's pretty much what the Lions did when they got to this NFC Championship game, specifically in the second half. And so teams are going to get better in the NFC. I know the NFC isn't as strong as it used to be back in the day, but there's still some good teams that can come back and can utilize the free agency room and the free agency market to better themselves. And The Lions caught everybody by surprise. And the thing is, I don't think they'll be able to catch anybody by surprise next year, because everybody knows what to expect with them. And everybody's seen, how good they were, this year. And I don't think anything that they'll do next year will be, some sort of surprise to anybody. And I think, teams are going to be able to adjust to that. And the thing is, in this league, it's extremely hard to repeat what you did, the year before. We saw the Philadelphia Eagles, be the best team in all of football up until they went to the Super Bowl and they lost. And then now they come back this year and they were arguably one of the worst teams in the NFC that were considered contenders. And so, maybe that could happen to the Detroit Lions. You just really never know. A lot of things went their way this year. Obviously Jared Goff played amazing. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, that dynamic duo in that backfield. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, those guys were, key contributors on that side of the ball. But, defensively, I'm not sure if they're still going to have their issues. Like I said, they have to address that. And if they're able to, maybe they can string along, another postseason run. But, right now, do I think that the Lions will be back here in the NFC Championship game? Absolutely not, because, I'm not too entirely sold on them. I haven't been sold on them all year. And even when they had the opportunity to prove me wrong in the biggest stage in the NFC Championship game, they folded and they proved me right. And so, it's going to be interesting to see how everything pans out for them, in this offseason and going into next year. And, like Dan Campbell said, man, this may have been their only shot. And, as the Lions team that's in our division, I hope this was their only shot. And I hope they go back to who they were, who they've always been, a team that's always just been at the bottom and playing for high draft picks each and every season. But
record a new hit, then we making us a film. Wouldn't sign a deal if I got a couple mil. Been in the lab, now they throwing out deals. Me and now late, now that's overkill.